Ew, Greg Branos for the Coachspeak Index. Yeah, I've gone bad. Merry Week 16, or happy Week 16, however you like it to be said. We're in the fantasy playoffs. What a time of the year. How many Christmas movies have you guys watched so far this holiday season? I have a fun recommendation for you. I doubt that you have seen it. It's from 1989. It is a French action horror film by the name of Dial Code Santa Claus. It is also known by the titles 3615 Code Père Noël, Deadly Games, Hide and Freak, and also known by the title Game Over. And a very interesting thing about this movie is that Home Alone completely ripped this film off. When you watch Dial Code Santa Claus, you will definitely see how it inspired Home Alone, which released 1 year later. Speaking of Game Over, the game is not over at Underdog Fantasy. In fact, the games haven't even started yet. I'm talking about God's game. I'm talking about playoff best ball, where you can win $200,000 off of a $25 entry. If you think that you know ball, which is a pretty good chance if you are listening to this podcast, head on over today to Underdog to draft a playoff best ball team. And you can sign up right now on Underdog with promo code Coachspeak to claim a first-time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash, plus a free pick'em. I will include the link in the description if you're watching on YouTube. It's right here, right there. Okay, let's talk some injuries real quick. Panthers head coach Dave Canales said that Xavier Legette is week to week right now with a groin and that he should be out this week. If Legette is out, that would be a boost to Adam Thielen and rookie Jalen Coker. Texans head coach DeMeco Ryans was asked about the ankle injury that Joe Mixon suffered in week 15. Ryan said, quote, "Joe came out fine. He missed some time there, but he'll be fine," end quote. Ryans has an 80% reliability rating on Injury Coachspeak. That is a low sample size. Raiders head coach Antonio Pierce was asked whether Aiden O'Connell, who's dealing with a knee injury, is on track to play in week 16. Pierce said, quote, "I would say he's trending upwards to playing this week," end quote. Pierce has a 75% reliability rating on Injury Coachspeak. That is also a small sample size. Dolphins head coach I did this last week. I called him Mike McDonald. It is not Mike McDonald. It is Mike McDaniel. Said that Jalen Waddle with his knee will be a day-to-day situation. I'll be hopeful that we'll see him, but I don't really know. And by God, that is Malik Washington's music that you are hearing. Chiefs head coach Andy Reid said, "We'll see" on the statuses of Patrick Mahomes and Hollywood Brown for week 16. Seahawks head coach Mike McDonald was asked about Geno Smith's knee injury. He said, quote, "We're fortunate, a lot of positive, optimistic signs coming out of the test. Geno's a beast, man. He's in here, working out in the morning, working through it. I know he's still feeling it, but this guy's tough as nails, and hopefully we'll see him practice throughout the week with optimistic in him being ready for the game," end quote. Yes, the wording sounds clunky, but that is what he said. Had to rewind several times and slow it down. He gets a little tongue-tied sometimes, which is fine. We all get our tongues tied up, all right? McDonald also said, quote, structurally, it's all there, end quote. And he was asked whether Geno will get the majority of first-team reps this week. McDonald said, quote, I'd say I'm optimistic that he'll get most of the snaps, end quote. McDonald has an 80% reliability rating on injury Coachspeak. I am optimistic about Geno Smith playing this week. Mike McDonald also said that we're optimistic on Kenneth Walker. Walker is dealing with a calf. I am cautiously optimistic on Kenneth Walker playing this week. These calf issues for running backs can be tough. About, I think, 10 days ago or so was feeling very up in the air and a very tenuous situation. The way that they were talking about it, they weren't really sure what was going on. But after all the tests, we started to hear more positive things from Mike McDonald, saying that things are trending in a good way. Okay, that's it for injuries. We're going to do something a little bit different today. No clips. We're just going to go through some stuff from the Discord, some very important notes. As you know, as you probably know, as you very likely know, my work week is just watching press conferences all day. It's head coaches, offensive coordinators, general managers, and it's 160 plus press conferences. It's 30 plus hours throughout the week of just the videos. And then, of course, I'm transcribing everything, breaking everything down. That all goes straight into the Coachspeak Index Discord, which if you're playing fantasy football, if you are doing any prop bets, anything like that for any amount of money, you should definitely be in there. It's $5 a month, and it's a crazy amount of information. And all of your favorite projection sites for fantasy football are in the Discord, and they are taking information that is placed into there, and they are using it for their projections. So why not just come straight to the source? We're going to start off with the Arizona Cardinals. And their head coach, Jonathan Gannon, spoke on Monday about how hard it is to take running back James Conner off of the field because he can do everything. He can do everything at a high level. And that is why they just signed him to a 2-year, $19 million contract extension, even though he's about to turn 30 years old. He is on the running back age cliff. He is on the precipice. He should be falling off of it right now at almost 30. Conner finds himself in a really terrific spot this week against the NFL's worst run defense. The Carolina Panthers are getting gashed on the ground for 173 rushing yards per game. That is nearly 20 yards more per game than the New York Giants, who are the league's second worst run defense. Arizona is fighting for its playoff life here in a very tightly packed NFC West. These are all must-win games for the Cardinals. And when you're in a must-win situation, you got to lean on your best players. And it's also very notable that the two running backs behind James Conner on the depth chart are likely going to miss this game. Amari DeMarcado was recently placed on injured reserve, and Trey Benson is dealing with an ankle injury. The wheels have never been more up for James Conner. Cardinals offensive coordinator Drew Petzing was asked about Marvin Harrison Jr. and Arizona's passing game, and Petzing said, I think it's important to not force the ball to anyone. And that has definitely been the case with Marvin Harrison Jr. You would think that the number 4 overall pick in the 2024 NFL draft would be averaging more than 6.6 targets per game, but that has not been the case. Tight end Trey McBride is the one who continues to eat through the air in this offense. Harrison Jr. was drafted at the 1-2 turn in fantasy this year. It will be very interesting to see where his ADP lands in 2025. Let's talk about the Atlanta Falcons. A new day has dawned in Atlanta, and it has come much earlier than expected. After standing by his man, Kirk Cousins, for several weeks of abysmal quarterback play, saying Kirk is for sure our quarterback, head coach Raheem Morris made the switch to rookie Michael Penix Jr. on Tuesday. So, what will this offense look like now? Someone in the Coachspeak Index Discord asked me if this is better for the Falcons skill players, and I said yes, absolutely it is. This offense was severely limited by Kirk Cousins' lack of mobility and lack of arm strength. If a quarterback has no legs and no arms, that is not ideal unless you're able to move the ball effectively via telekinesis. The one player this might be bad news for would be Ray McCloud, whose PPR scamming days may be over now that noodle arm Kirk Cousins is on the bench. You can't really glean much from preseason games. You're usually playing against vanilla defenses or vanilla adjacent defenses. And we routinely see these bad rookie quarterbacks like Dorian Thompson-Robinson and Aiden O'Connell just absolutely shred in the preseason and then completely shit the bed once they're playing in the regular season. So it's no surprise that when New York Giants head coach Brian Daboll was asked this week whether he was reviewing Penix's college tape in preparation for this week's game against the Falcons, he said that yes, he was. What we do know is that the Falcons are 8.5-point home favorites against the Giants, who, like I mentioned, have the NFL's second worst run defense. I think we'll see a lot of Bijan Robinson. And if Atlanta builds up a lead, we will see some Tyler Algier. But they don't have to hide their quarterback anymore like they've been doing this season. And they can take advantage of the fact that there isn't any regular season tape on Michael Penix Jr. This is a guy who loves to throw deep. That matches up well with Darnell Mooney's skill set. It's also a fit for Drake London, who is very good at contested catches. I think we see some controlled aggressiveness from offensive coordinator Zach Robinson. They don't have to rely on Penix, but he opens up the playbook for them now. On a game-to-game basis, they are in a much better position with Penix at quarterback. Overall, Atlanta finds themselves scratching and clawing for a playoff spot, so every possession is very important to them now. But it is also important that this offense is clicking if they do make it into the playoffs. That is not a switch you can flip in just 1 week, especially with a rookie quarterback. This is a brand new machine that you have to turn on. You have to get it warmed up, see how it operates, iron out any kinks. Being an 8.5-point home favorite is the perfect time to see how this thing works. Ride your unbelievably talented running back, Bijan Robinson, against an atrocious run defense to open up the play action and passing game. And let Michael Penix Jr. spin that ball because you need to get him going right now. And this is a game where you're going to have some room for error. Buffalo Bills head coach Sean McDermott in his Week 15 postgame presser said that Ty Johnson is showing up in the passing game. He's really working hard on being elite in that category. McDermott said that he met former Patriots running back James White before the game, and White was very tough to handle in the passing game. It can really help the offense when you have that type of player. Ty Johnson caught all 5 of his targets for 114 yards. He's not someone that you are plugging into the lineup of your managed league right now, but he does make for a very interesting flyer in playoff best ball tournaments. Staying in Buffalo real quick, offensive coordinator Joe Brady was asked about Amari Cooper getting 0 targets. Brady said, you add in a Keon Coleman and Dalton Kincaid, and some targets are going to get pushed around. We talk about the everyone eats vibe here. It's not about the targets or catches. It's about finding ways to win football games. Amari Cooper has been a huge addition to us. We're better when he's out on the field. I got to do a better job of getting the ball in his hands because he helps us. Brady also said in relation to this, I love how Josh Allen plays within the system and doesn't force anything. Now, when Joe Brady said before the season that this was Josh Allen's offense and that everyone would eat in it, he was not kidding around. He was not even inflating the truth one single iota. This has absolutely been what we have seen from the Bills offense in 2024. Chicago Bears interim head coach Thomas Brown was asked about the Bears using DJ Moore out of the backfield. Brown said, I've been trying to find multiple ways to get him the ball out in space to make guys have to go tackle him. Cleveland Browns head coach Kevin Stefanski said that Jerome Ford gave us a spark in the return game and on offense. I thought his pass protection was good as well. Quote, another young player that will get a few more opportunities. End quote. And that is, of course, what we all would expect after Nick Chubb broke his foot in week 15. If Jerome Ford is still on waivers in your league for some reason, go and grab him right now. Dallas Cowboys head coach Mike McCarthy said, I love Rico Dowdle's run style, especially when he goes vertical. He breaks tackles. His contact balance is exceptional. He's got so much power in his hips. Sound a little bit like Shakira right there. He has a unique run style. He's done a much better job of protecting the football. McCarthy said, I really want to see him take the next step and be a third down back. Just be an every down back. He's doing a little more of that, and we'll see how that looks moving forward. It's important for him to touch the football. And then in that same day, offensive coordinator Brian Schottenheimer had a press conference, and he said that we see Rico Dowdle getting stronger and better the more carries he gets. That's not always the case for runners in this league. The Dallas Cowboys have been feeding Rico Dowdle like he is a hungry hippo, and as a result, he has been rampaging like a gremlin being fed after midnight. He's averaging 21 carries per game over his last 4 outings, and he has turned that into an average of 119.5 rushing yards. Pretty nice. Detroit Lions. David Montgomery suffered a knee injury that has him out indefinitely. He is currently seeking a third opinion from doctors. Head coach Dan Campbell said, we've got a lot of confidence in Jahmyr Gibbs. He's gotten better and better throughout the season. He's getting better in the pass game, and you see what he's able to do in the run game. Campbell also said, quote, we got to use and maximize the reps that we have for him and be careful that we don't give him too much. We still got to be able to be smart with him, but we need him, and that's the trick. So those other guys, Craig's going to need to help us, which he'll be ready, and Vaki potentially as well. And of course, there he is. Oh, sorry. End quote. Of course, there he is referring to Craig Reynolds and Sion Vaki. So people who are thinking that Sion Vaki is going to be the guy that is going to step up as RB2 here, as the, well, he wouldn't be Knuckles because David Montgomery is Knuckles. Maybe Tails. Maybe is there like a twin? Like a baby Sonic, maybe. Anyway, it's going to be Craig Reynolds is going to be the guy here. Obviously, it's not going to be a 50-50 split like we've seen with Montgomery and Gibbs. Gibbs is really destroyed when Montgomery is out. So it's going to be a lot of Gibbs, but they are going to have to mix in some Craig Reynolds, and maybe we see a little bit of Vaki. Dan Campbell saying potentially Vaki. Green Bay Packers head coach Matt LaFleur said, I think Christian Watson has been practicing better. He's really showed up the last 2 months, and it's showing up on game day. He's made a lot of great plays. He's blocking his butt off as well. And every phase of the game, he's been A+. He's extremely intelligent. We can move him around. He rarely has a mental error. He's doing a good job winning his one-on-one opportunities. Very cool to see Christian Watson staying healthy this year, and he's separating at a very high level. Check out the ass on that guy over at Fantasy Points, the average separation score. LaFleur also spoke about Romeo Doubs. He said it all starts with the work that he puts in. He spends more time on the jugs machine than anybody I've ever been around. He has unbelievable hands. I think he's done a great job with his releases, knowing what to do, playing decisively. He's playing really good football right now. He's playing physical and aggressive. Now, you may remember Matt LaFleur saying basically this exact same stuff about Romeo Doubs during training camp this year. So again, when these head coaches and offensive coordinators are so effusive in their praise for players, and when they're talking about the work that these guys are putting in, when they're talking about them putting in work at an elite level, let's keep our antennas up for that. Now, we know with the Packers, who are such a run-heavy team and have a very talented, stocked wide receiver room, it's classic better and best ball for these guys. But they are having big weeks. We've seen multiple touchdown weeks from Romeo Doubs. We've seen some really big weeks from Christian Watson. Jaden Reed had a big week, I think, week 1? And a smattering since then. But in best ball, depending on where they're going, Romeo Doubs was going later. Christian Watson was going later. These guys can pay off. And then once it comes time for the fantasy playoffs, any of these guys can hit any given week. So really nice to diversify your portfolio and have them in there when you get through in the fantasy best ball playoffs on Underdog Fantasy. New England Patriots head coach Gerard Mayo seemed to throw offensive coordinator Alex Van Pelt under the bus in his post-game presser when Mayo was asked whether he considered running Drake May in a short yardage situation on the opponent's 4-yard line in Week 15. The Patriots were stuffed on 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1. Mayo's response to this question was, "You said it, I didn't," end quote. Mayo later walked those comments back like he's done with many of his comments this season. What's very interesting is that a month ago, Alex Van Pelt was asked in a press conference about designing runs for Drake May, and he said, "We're not going to design runs for Drake May on 1st and 10 in the middle of a drive. But if a high leverage situation arises where we can use his legs to our advantage, we certainly will call a designed run for him if we think that's the best play." Well, Van Pelt has been presented with these high leverage situations since then, including this spot against the Cardinals in Week 15, and we have not seen him use Drake May's legs and large frame. This is something to keep an eye on for fantasy football in 2025 if Alex Van Pelt remains the offensive coordinator in New England, because this is really villainous usage of Drake May's talents. Alex Van Pelt may as well grow out a mustache and grease it up, twist it around with his fingers. New Orleans interim head coach Darren Rizzi said, "I'm extremely proud of Kendre Miller because of the way he's handled the last couple of weeks. He's kind of just tried to block out the outside noise and work hard on the things he needs to work on: ball security, pass protection, the mental. His whole thing is if he can stay healthy and he can be consistent with the week-to-week game plan, you see what he's shown that he's capable of over the last 2 weeks. I still think there's so much more football out there for him. I'm rooting for him because I think he has a brilliant career ahead of him if he can take care of those two things. This is super interesting to me. I mean, obviously we know the talent that Kendre Miller has. We've seen it in the few times that he's been out on the field for New Orleans. But Darren Rizzi points to the two things that Dennis Allen talked about of, can this guy stay healthy? Can he stay locked in mentally? But the difference is these two guys are talking about it in completely different ways. Dennis Allen, more the authoritarian, hard ass, 1950s dad of, come on, man, let's stay healthy. Let's get locked in. Come on, dude. Like, you should know better. Just really tough on the guy. And Darren Rizzi is delivering the same message, but in a different way, in a softer way. And that's just cool to see the difference between those two. And Darren Rizzi, if you see him during games, see him on the sideline interacting with players, it's not like he's like the softest guy, right? I mean, he takes players to task when they mess up. We've seen him yelling at guys, but still, to couch this message, which is, it's a fair but tough message of, hey, let's take care of our bodies. Let's lock in. Let's make sure we stay focused. To deliver that message, kind of, iron fist in a velvet glove type messaging. Pretty cool, and just seems to be a much better way of handling your players. Philadelphia Eagles head coach Nick Sirianni said, "All the guys know that Kenneth Gainwell is one of my favorites. He takes advantage of every opportunity. He's extremely tough. He works hard. What's not to love about Kenny Gainwell? He's a special, special player. He's a special, special teammate. He speaks so much to what our culture is here." And then offensive coordinator Kellen Moore said, "Kenneth Gainwell is the best. Just to have a guy like him behind Saquon Barkley, who has played a very valuable role in this league for a number of years now. The way he handles himself and the way he prepares is second to none. He's done an excellent job when called upon, and he takes advantage of those opportunities." So, yeah, very clear that Kenneth Gainwell is the RB2 in Philadelphia. We also got these same questions last year in Philly when DeAndre Swift was there, and they would use Kenneth Gainwell. And I remember Sirianni being asked, "Why is Kenneth Gainwell your RB2?" And he said, "Because he's our second best running back." They're very committed to him. If something were to happen to Saquon Barkley, Kenneth Gainwell would absolutely be the guy to own in this backfield, and he would get a lot of opportunities. San Francisco 49ers head coach Kyle Shanahan said, "I don't think Deebo Samuel has slowed down. I think he got banged up earlier in the year. I think he had an awesome training camp, and we were real excited going into the year. He got set back for a few weeks early in the season, and then when he came back, he had the pneumonia and a rib thing, and I think that set him back when he couldn't practice much. When you build up a bunch in camp, and then you miss a lot of time in practice, it is hard to maintain that stuff. But by no means do I think he's lost it. And then his looks haven't been quite as good this year, just like for everybody." Finally, Washington Commanders head coach Dan Quinn said, "We've worked really hard on Jaden Daniels remaining a passer inside the pocket. remaining a passer longer as guys work down the field. There's been improvement there, and we are still progressing in that spot. Okie dokie. That does it. You know when I say okie dokie, that does it for the show. That is the signal that the episode is ending. I'm not quite sure yet what our schedule will be next week. This podcast records and releases on Thursdays, and there were 2 games next week on Wednesday, which is Christmas Day. I will at least get a podcast out on Thursday. It would be a bit tough to release anything on Tuesday because we're only working off of the Week 16 post-game press conferences and the Monday pressers. If anyone has any sit-start questions or any other kind of questions, I answer all of that stuff in the Coachspeak Index Discord, which again is just $5 per month, and it is a huge edge because this is information that a lot of this is information you're not seeing anywhere. I have a great eye and ear to curate information that is important and relevant to fantasy football and NFL betting, and not all the beat writers are as attuned to that. All right, follow us on Twitter /X at Coachspeak Index, also on Blue Sky. And, of course, subscribe to the podcast on YouTube and Spotify and Apple Podcasts and all these wonderful places. Leave us some nice reviews. That'd be a wonderful Christmas present. Wake up to a bunch of 5-star reviews and subs. Wow, what a 2024 Christmas, huh? All right, Sarah, take us out.